Facebook now.
Excellent, excellent. Hello, everybody. I hope that you are having a wonderful kickoff to your Friday. My name is Jess Bubbico, and I'm excited to be here with you on the Quantum Alignment Show. If you're joining in, I cannot see the Facebook chat from here, but I know that I think Cindy will help at the end with some questions. Is that correct, Cindy?
That is correct. I'm monitoring both.
Awesome. So feel free to drop questions in as we go. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our presentation for today. Again, I'm super excited to be here with you on Fridays of all days are my favorite day of the week. So very excited to be here. So what we're going to be talking about today is illuminating your intuitive gifts. So my name is Jess Bubbico. I am an intuitive medium and human design specialist. You can find me over at jessbubbico.com as well as over on Instagram at Jess Bubbico. I am a level 3 certified human design specialist with the quantum alignment system, currently working on level 4 and just absolutely loving what human design has taught me in my life and in my experience. And of course, I personally think Karen is the best teacher out there. But I am excited today because when I started my when I started my intuitive journey and learning to develop my intuition and connect in with my own, as we call them, intuitive gifts, human design is something that really helped me to kind of map out and bring some more solid data to these experiences that I was having that were sort of like non-tangible experiences. For those of you who have had, which I'm sure is probably pretty much everyone here, experiences connecting with your own intuition and maybe having these sort of ethereal experiences in your own life, sometimes it can be challenging for the logical mind to understand when you've had a mystical experience of sorts. And so what I love about human design and what we're going to talk about today, more so towards the end of our time together, is how to understand through our human design chart how intuition comes through to us and how we experience the mystical, the 5D, that sort of non-tangible energy. So again, you can find me over at jessbubbico.com or over on Instagram. And today we're going to dive deeper into the layers of understanding intuition, the quantum field, and the mystical. If you would like to, you can head over to my website and you can take my intuition quiz. This intuition quiz, we all experience and receive intuition in a variety of ways. However, this quiz is going to give you kind of one of your predominant ways that you experience and receive intuition in your life. So if you'd like to, you can head over, take the intuition quiz. You'll see this little box right here on my website once you start to scroll down just a bit to take the quiz, drop in your information, and it will take you over to that quiz. Each and every single person on this planet can access their intuition and connect in more consciously with the quantum field. When we're talking about intuition today, yes, our authority, when we look at our decision-making authority in our human design, that is a form of intuition. And what we're going to be talking about today is kind of stepping a few steps beyond our authority and using our intuition as it relates to making decisions in our lives. I want to tell you a little story. I think I shared this on the last Quantum Alignment show. I want to tell you a little story about how I started working with intuition and more of the mystical realms, if you will. This picture over here on the left is me, my grandmother, and my mom. And the three of us are all born on the same day, which happens to be March 22nd, which was Monday of this week. And it's pretty wild having this experience, being born on the exact same day, 3 generations is pretty rare. Now, I, as a child, always had experiences, I'm sure like many of you, where I kind of had these experiences of when people crossed over or passed away, that I had these experiences where I would kind of have these run-ins with them in my day-to-day life. And so in particular, and I was always a pretty sensitive child. And if you are somebody out there who has a sensitive child currently, I'd love to, you can comment in the comment box as well. But for me in particular, when I was about 15 years old, my grandmother was hit and killed by a drunk driver as she was walking across the street one night. And it was a pretty traumatic experience for my family. And my mom would say to me, she'd say, Jess, I want to have a dream about grandma, but I'm having trouble dreaming about her. Like I can't have dreams about her. And what I didn't share with my mom at the time is that I was having these experiences every night where I would lay in my bed with my eyes closed and I would talk to her through in my mind. And at the time I would call it praying. I would talk to her in my mind. And this one night I could feel I was laying in my bed and I was talking to her in my head, and just I would go through what had happened in my day and feelings I was having. And I could feel someone sitting on the bed next to me, rubbing my back. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm 15 years old. I didn't come from a very spiritual or mystical family by any means, but I kept thinking to myself, I must be crazy. Like, I know I talk to her every night, but I must be crazy. The next morning, so I fell asleep. Next morning, I woke up, I went downstairs, and my mom said to me, Jess, I had this crazy dream. I was looking through a keyhole into your bedroom and I could see grandma sitting on your bed. And I said, well, that's really crazy, because as I was laying in my bed last night, I could feel someone sitting beside me and I could feel somebody rubbing my back, and I was talking to grandma. And so from there, I started to just develop this curiosity around intuition and the ethereal realms. And I came from a science background. I worked as a speech therapist and did a lot with brain science, which we'll talk about a bit today. And I used a lot of logic in my life. And I said, I want to be able to understand this other side. Like, what is this non-tangible, non-physical, mystical realm? I really want to understand this. And my journey has taken me to this place of blending the two together, of understanding intuition and sort of this 3D world. How do we combine these two? Do they work together? Are they separate? How can I honor both in my life? And so that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So my question to you is, how does your intuition communicate with you? You can take a few moments if you want to drop it into the chat box over here on Zoom, or you want to drop it into the chat box over on Facebook, into the comment box, you can. How does intuition communicate with you? Are you somebody who sees, like you have vivid dreams? Are you somebody who feels things or gets chills down your spine when there's something that feels like it's right or correct when someone says something? How does your intuition speak to you? And I want you to keep this in mind as we move throughout our time together today, because we're going to be talking about this as it relates to the chart and as it relates to your experience in your day-to-day life. We are constantly communicating and interfacing with the quantum field all throughout our day. And we have the opportunity to become more conscious of what we're asking and how we're communicating with the field. I know Karen talks a lot about that divine interface, the head center, which we'll talk about as well today, where we're sort of constantly asking questions into the quantum field, right? We have these thoughts, we think these things, we ask these questions in our minds, they go into the quantum field. Depending upon your type, you're going to probably interface with the answers as they come to you in different ways, but we're constantly asking and interfacing with the quantum field, even if it's just a statement of like, man, I'd really love to understand more about my family lineage. And then we start seeing, let's say commercials for myheritage.com, or people in your experience start talking about ways that they've traced back their lineage and people that they've connected with. So we all are constantly connecting with the quantum field, and we're constantly receiving answers back throughout our days. It's just that oftentimes we don't recognize that it's happening, because quantum, when we're connecting with the quantum field, right? This sort of, I think about the quantum field as the Wi-Fi that exists in the room around us, right? There is Wi-Fi that is all around me. This air, this space around my body is filled with information. There's information floating all around me. There's Wi-Fi floating all around me, from this condo, the condo next door, the condo on the other side, the condo upstairs, right? This information is all around me. However, I can't point to it. I can't see exactly where it is, but I know that this information is around me and these codes to be able to connect in with the internet, because it's coming through my computer. And that is my, that is my proof that Wi-Fi does exist. I can't touch it. I can't see it, but I know it's here because I'm talking to you through the computer screen, wherever you are in the world. And that's that's how it goes with us as well. And this subtle energy, this subtle information that exists in the quantum field around you, right? If I walk into a room with Cindy and I start to feel my heart clenching up, and before I walked in the room, I wasn't feeling much of anything, and I come into contact with her energy, I might be saying to myself, oh my gosh, like, am I feeling this? Is this what Cindy's feeling? Right? Even our emotions are a form of subtle energy. They travel through time and space, and we can feel them in our bodies and things like this. So we have the opportunity to become more conscious of what we're asking, and to also become more conscious of what we're receiving and how things are coming in. Like I said before, a lot of the times we don't even realize that it's happening because it's happening so quickly. Information is moving in and moving out before we even have time to process it. And I'm talking about subtle information, right? Psychic, intuitive information. But again, we're always receiving information from the quantum field. We're always detecting subtle energy. And the way that we process it is through the clairs, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. I want to share another little story with you that I posted on Instagram earlier today. If you follow me on Instagram, you probably saw it there. I was driving this morning, and I was reminded as I was driving, an image popped into my mind as I was driving. We'll talk about driving, because driving is a very powerful way to actually connect in with our intuition, and I'll explain why soon. But I was driving, and all of a sudden this image popped in my mind from a year ago, last March, where I drove down the street and I saw an image. I saw a field full of vultures, and it was the craziest and creepiest thing. But I saw this field full of vultures, and I'm thinking to myself, this is so weird. This is dropping into my mind right now. But because I know how this works, I said, let me just put a pin in this. Remembered the vultures, drove to Starbucks, went through the Starbucks line, and what do I see? Vultures literally on top of, as I'm driving through the drive-through, they're on the garbage can. They're looking down into the garbage can, these two huge vultures. What is that, right? Like, why did I think of that? And then I saw it just about 10 minutes later, after I had been reminded of this image. We can constantly interface with the past and the present and the future. And the way that it's going to come through to us, like I said, is through our clairs, through what we see, feel, hear, and know, as well as some of the other clairs as well. So the primary clairs, which we'll talk about in the human design chart, are clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing, clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and claircognizance, which is clear knowing. So just like right now, I can see a computer screen in front of me. I can hear somebody just shut the garbage out there, right? I can feel the seat underneath my chair, and I know that I am here with all of you on the Quantum Alignment Show. We can experience the 5D world, the non-tangible, the mystical world, through what we see and what we hear and what we feel and what we know on the internal plane. It's just we have to pay attention to it. So let's talk first about clairvoyance. This is the gift of clear seeing. So if you are somebody who feels like you are particularly clairvoyant, you can go ahead and drop a comment into the comment box, or drop it into the chat box here on Zoom. Clairvoyance is clear seeing. Now, clairvoyance can manifest itself in a variety of ways. Number one, we can have very vivid and clear dreams. So you might be somebody with a very vivid dream life. You sleep at night and you have dreams that are perhaps predictive of something that's coming up. You dream of somebody having a baby. The next day, your best friend calls you and says, hey, I'm pregnant. They can also be very symbolic in nature. So you might have a dream of somebody having a baby, and you're really starting a new chapter in your life. So there's some symbolism there. You might, much like I had today, see an image in your mind's eye, and then that image maybe foreshadows something to come, like seeing an image of vultures in your mind's eye, being reminded of an old memory, and then driving into Starbucks and seeing said vultures right there on the garbage can. You might find that you see colors around people's bodies. So you see an aura around them. You might see, when we look at, if anybody knows the energy centers or the chakras on the body, you might be able to see the colors of the chakras and what's off balance or what's balanced in somebody's energetic field. So clairvoyance is the ability to clearly see through your third eye, right? Through the mind's eye. There's a deep connection here to the pineal gland. So this is one of the ways that we can experience intuition and receive information from the quantum field about the past, the present, as well as the future. We can also develop and train any of these to become louder in our lives. And I will go through that as well today. However, I just want you to know, if you're saying to yourself, you know what, I'm not particularly clairvoyant, I don't think I see anything, just know that you can train these gifts in your life to become stronger. Clairaudience is clear hearing. Somebody who is clairaudient, again, you can drop a comment into the comment box on Facebook or over here into the chat. Clairaudience is clear hearing. And this is the ability to perhaps hear something in your mind, or, maybe you hear a word drop in, or you hear like, open the window, and then you open the window and you see somebody outside when you head over to the window that you want to say hey to walking past your house. Or you might be somebody who receives messages through music. So maybe you are very attuned to sound and music, and you notice that you always get messages through whatever's on the radio or on your Spotify that day. You might be also somebody who's very attracted to something like sound healing, or healing through tone and healing through sound. So clairaudience is this ability of clear hearing, being able to hear guidance and being connected to tones. Clairsentience is clear feeling. And clear feeling is just that. It is clear feelings in your body. So if you're somebody who gets chill bumps down your back when something feels like accurate or right, like somebody says something to you, like they're going to go to, Las Vegas, and they're going to host a retreat in Las Vegas, and you just get chill bumps down your spine, like, oh, that's going to be really good for you. You might be somebody who receives those feelings in your body as affirmation or confirmation of what someone's doing or what somebody says. You might also get just a sour feeling in your stomach if something's not right? When something is off, you might get feeling and sensation in your body. With clairsentience, you may also find that you're very attuned to what's happening physically in other people's bodies. So you might find that if you walk into a room and Robert has surgery on his shoulder, you walk in and you can feel that your shoulder is, it feels like you just had shoulder surgery. So clairsentience, clear feeling other people's feelings, receiving messages through feelings in your body. Clairempathy and clairsentience, I often hear tied together, but if you're super empathic, you might be able to feel and sense what somebody is feeling that day as well when you walk into a room. Like I use the example, if you walk into a room with your friend Cindy and she's sad, you might be able to feel that sadness. And we'll go over that in the chart as well. Claircognizance, this is clear knowing. You just know something and you don't know how you know it, you just know it. I just know that it's time to move. I just know that I need to call so-and-so. I just know that I need to pursue this thing. I just know that I need to start or end this relationship. You don't know how you know, you just know. I always use the example with claircognizance that for me, claircognizance feels like when I say something like it's time for me to move to this place, or it's time for me to go to this coffee shop, it feels the same as me saying, my name is Jess Bubbico. I know it. I know that is my name, and it feels right, and it feels resonant in my body, and my clear knowingness feels kind of similar to that of, I just know that I need to do this thing, or it's time to stop doing this thing, or this thing is going to happen. So if you resonate a lot with claircognizance, go ahead and drop it into the chat as well. All right, this little cute puppy pup. Clairolfactance is clear smelling, which shows up in the chart. We'll talk about this as well because this does show up in the spleen. My dad used to say to me that he would wake up when I started talking about intuition, he was like, Jess, I used to wake up like every morning at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would smell cigarette smoke. And I thought that it was, he thought he was crazy, or the neighbor next door was smoking, but the neighbor next door doesn't smoke. So I was like, something to be aware of, who's hanging out around you. So we can smell psychic and intuitive information. You might also just be able to kind of smell with your nose when something is off. So you can kind of smell a liar or smell that someone's not telling the truth. Those are kind of the primary clairs. We also have clairgustance, which is clear taste. There's also something called psychometry, which you walk into a store. Let's say you go into a thrift store, you can pick up an object and hold the object, and you feel like, oh my goodness, there's like, I can feel the person's energy who used to own this object. So psychometry would be being able to actually hold something, touch something tangibly, and be able to read it. So we know that we send questions out into the quantum field via the head center. Now, the reason that I am sharing this is because when we're looking at asking questions for ourselves, I think it's very important to look at how we're asking questions and how we're interacting and interfacing with the quantum field for ourselves. When you ask a question, if you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do about such and such thing? Like I'm terrified of blah, blah, blah happening, right? We're in a very contracted state. And I'm going to go into the brainwave states in just a little bit to help you to understand, again, how we receive intuition. But we really want to look at, how am I asking questions out into the quantum field? If I'm constantly interacting with the quantum field, both consciously or unconsciously, what are the quality of questions that I'm asking, and how am I asking them? What is it that I'm thinking about or sort of ruminating on a consistent basis? You know, if it's, oh my gosh, how am I going to make rent this next month? Or, oh my goodness, how am I going to, whatever it may be, or is so-and-so going to cheat on me, right? Are these like the questions that we're asking from a fear-based perspective? We can find ourselves in this contraction place when really we want to be looking at the quality of the questions that we ask of, you know, like, how can I expand and create more abundance in my life, right? How can I create more stability in my life? How can I, create a relationship that's built on trust and harmony? Things like this. We want to really look at the quality of the questions that we're asking, because if we're asking questions that are based in fear, through our intuition, we're going to receive back answers that sort of, that may reflect that. Or we may also interpret the answer that we receive through our intuition, sort of with some layered fear and doubt on top of it. So I like to take for myself, I have an open head Najna. I like to take inventory of the types of questions that I'm asking and ask myself, why am I asking this? Is it coming from a place of fear? Am I afraid of something? And that's why I'm asking this question, especially for bigger things in my life that I'm wanting to create or experience. Is there a limitation that I'm putting on myself? And again, we're talking today about intuitive gifts. We all have them. Like, we all have the ability to receive information in different ways, especially if we understand the mechanics of how this works. So again, we know we're going to send our questions out into the quantum field via the head center. So let's start really looking at, again, the type of questions we're asking, how we're asking, where they're being birthed out of, because that can also point us in the direction of our own healing. If I'm asking questions about relationship, is so-and-so going to leave me or cheat on me, or is such and such thing going to happen? What it's giving me an opportunity to reflect on is like, whoa, Jess, do you have some things coming up around trust and some relationship wounds and things that you want to work on for yourself? And if you do, right, how can you start to heal those layers of self and create a more trusting environment inside of yourself? I also believe that the more that we develop trust within ourselves on a day-to-day basis, the more we begin to trust the answers that we receive as well from the universe, from spirit. I call it Gus, God, universe, spirit. So whatever you like to call it, the mailman, whatever you call that, the quantum field is what you call it. But we want to, again, we want to start to build that trust within ourselves, because if we build and strengthen our trust in ourselves, I believe we start to build and strengthen our trust in the universe as well. For me, this looks like keeping my word to myself. understanding my human design chart and allowing myself to start living in alignment with it, even in the places where I might be afraid to do it, showing up for myself, taking care of myself, these different things that I might hold conditioning around. The more that I heal myself, the more that I continue to explore and get curious and show up every day and learn more and more about myself. It's not about being perfect, but it is about learning to trust yourself more deeply via paying attention, being more present in your life, connecting in with yourself and showing up for yourself every single day. So again, the questions we send out into the field via the head center is going to indicate a lot of what we're going to start to receive back. And then our answers are going to return to you through your body via those clairs, what you see, what you feel, what you hear, and what you know, maybe what you smell or what you taste on the inside. It's important to also recognize. So we understand now that you're going to look at the questions that you ask. You're going to start to become more present and aware of the information that's coming through your vessel, your body vessel, on a moment-to-moment basis, the things that you see, hear, feel, and know on the inside. There's something else that's very important to recognize in what supports us in connecting with our own intuition. Okay. And this is the type of state that we're living in within our bodies. So when we are in a stress state, it can be harder to connect with our intuition versus when we're in a relaxed and more receptive state. When we look at the ideas, when we look at a stress states can come from multiple situations. It can come from being in a really stressful environment. It can also come from if I have a lot of fears around starting a business, right? Then if I start a business, I might find that a lot of fear and stress is starting to come up in my body just from the idea of thinking about starting a business. It might be if I have fears around, like I said before, relationships, right? If I have fear around relationship, that might invoke a stress state, an anxious state, or a fearful state. And I might find that it's really hard to access my intuition when I'm thinking about dating and I'm maybe browsing Bumble or something like this for those of you out there in the dating world. When we're in that stressed state, it can be really hard to hear what our higher self has to say, what our intuition is wanting to communicate with us. And again, the more we start to heal our bodies as well and heal our minds and heal our emotions, the more that we can start to heal those stress states and be in more of a state of relaxation, openness, and receptivity in different areas of our lives. When we're in that relaxed state and we can move from stress state into relaxed state, we can start to hear more clearly, see more clearly, feel more clearly, know more clearly from our higher self. So how do we do that, right? Like that sounds really cool in theory. If I'm stressed out, I probably won't be able to hear as clearly versus when I'm relaxed, I probably will. How the heck do we do this? Well, I want to talk first about really kind of understanding some of the anatomy of our brainwave states. So when you're in a stressed out state, this is the human brainwaves. So we have different brainwave states. And when we look at our brainwaves, when we are in what's called a beta or high beta brainwave state, which is we tend to develop that sort of like more logical way of thinking around the age of 8 years old. We start to move into more of a predominantly beta brainwave state. When we look at our brainwaves on a normal day-to-day basis, human beings, adults in the workforce and we'll say maybe the real world, we're in more of a beta brainwave state. We're alert, we're concentrating, we're thinking, and we're more focused on the outside world. We're more focused on what's happening external of us. And when you think about it, it makes sense if I'm needing to pay attention to my intuition on the inside, but I'm in more of a thinking state. I'm at my computer, on my desk. I'm thinking about the clients I need to work with and all the work I need to do. I'm in that thinking state. I'm thinking through how I don't get hurt in relationship, or how I start my business, or how I leave a relationship or move. I'm thinking external of myself. And that puts me into more of a beta brainwave state. And when you're in more of a beta brainwave state, you are less connected to your intuition. We also find in that high beta brainwave state is where we start to feel stress and overthink. And again, that can create a sense of focusing external of self. When we start to move into more of a state of relaxation, which I'll talk about kind of how to do that in just a few moments, we start to move into more of an alpha or a theta brainwave state. We start to relax. We start to come into a space of creativity and visualization. I don't know anybody, when I think about typing on my computer and being in it, like I need to create my business and do this thing and make my PowerPoint presentation. Yes, there's an element of creativity. And yet when I think about creativity, I automatically think more about relaxation. I think about painting or dancing or doing something like this. So when we think about wanting to relax ourselves, to listen to our intuition, we're inviting ourselves to relax our brain and relax our brainwave states, coming into more of an alpha or a theta brainwave state. Alpha is kind of a light meditation. Theta is more of a deeper meditation, and delta is when we're sleeping and healing. So I said earlier that I think personally for me, driving is a great way for me to be able to connect with my intuition. Why? Because if I'm driving somewhere that I know around town that I've been a million times, my subconscious mind knows how to get around town without having to actively think, right? Go into that more beta brainwave state. I'm actually very relaxed. And I am more connected in that relaxation because I'm maybe in a little bit more of an alpha state to my intuition. So when I drive, that's why today I was seeing vultures in my mind's eye. I was very relaxed where I was going. I'd been a million times. I was on a leisure drive and I saw that, right? And then I saw the vultures. And so when we allow ourselves to start practicing dropping into more of an alpha state or even theta, going into deeper meditation, we can hear what's going on more clearly. When we're in those states, I think it's an awesome time to ask those questions that we have, right? How can I develop a really healthy, loving relationship? Where should I move? Where is it in my highest and best interest to move? Am I ready to leave this relationship? What will happen if I blah, 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 whatever it may be. So we, as human beings, are gifted with the ability to actually move ourselves into and out of these states. And in doing that, we have more active, more conscious control of connection with our intuition than we often realize that we do. So again, when we think of beta brainwave state, I made it red because it's alerting. Thinking, mental activity, outward focus. Typically, I don't know about any of you, but if this is you, feel free to drop a comment. I often will have an experience where when I need to listen to my intuition the most and I am stressed out, I'm like, I don't have time to drop into a lower brainwave state right now. I don't have time to relax, right? Because in this, I'm focused outward and I'm not connected to the present moment. So I think there's no time, or I have to hurry, or I have to rush, or I have to know right now. So a lot of the times it takes training ourselves to allow ourselves to move more into a relaxed state of receptivity and awareness. So if you're somebody who's coming into this going, yeah, but I typically tend to only ask questions of my intuition when I am stressed out because I'm not connected to the present moment, this is maybe an invitation to start offering yourself a mindfulness practice where you allow yourself to start going, okay, I'm really stressed out. What would happen if I take 5 deep breaths? What would happen if instead of continuing typing on the computer, I went and took a shower? Because I know I feel more relaxed when I take a shower, right? So right now, I'm going to invite everyone to take a few moments and just jot down what are some activities for you that allow you to relax when you're stressed out. I would also say if you're somebody who is like, well, I like to drink wine when I'm stressed out, or something like that, I would invite you to maybe think to yourself, like, what are other ways that I can actually find relaxation in my day-to-day life? Because a lot of the times when we're looking at spirits of some kind, right, like wine, beer, something like this, it can actually alter the way that we understand how intuition comes through as well. So I would say jot down a couple of ways. How do you like to relax and come into more relaxed state? Is it taking a lap around the block? Is it taking 10 deep breaths, meditation? Is it going for a drive or taking a shower? Those are two of my favorites. Alpha or theta brainwave state. Wow, that's a big, I don't know about anybody else's eyes, but my eyes just went crazy from that red to the blue. But when we drop down into more of an alpha or a theta brainwave state, relaxation, intuition, imagination, and creativity. So ask yourself, what are a couple of activities that you can give yourself to make that shift throughout your day? Because you will find that the answers that you are looking for when you're asking those questions may actually come to you more easily. And here's the fun thing with intuition, it's not always going to make sense in the moment, right? I can remember last year, I was thinking about where I wanted to live back in, it was probably May of 2019. And I just heard, I was like, I'm going to go for a walk on the beach. And as I was walking on the beach, I heard call so-and-so. I called so-and-so. She was looking for somebody to rent her place starting in just a couple of weeks. Didn't end up moving there. But in the long, like the thing is it's like, we know, our intuition knows, the quantum field starts to feed us what we need when we ask those questions that are in alignment with not fear. And we'll get fear and scarcity answers too, but we can start to really navigate when we connect in with our hearts and the truth of who we are. And I'm sure pretty much everyone here is studying human design to some degree. As we start to really align with ourselves and know ourselves and ask new questions and invite ourselves to come into more of a relaxed state when we ask those questions, really cool things can happen and we can make quantum leaps in short periods of time as well. If your brain is in a stress state, it's going to affect it. It can affect your ability to clearly receive from your intuition. Not always, sometimes we can, but I'm just saying it's heck of a lot easier if we allow ourselves to relax. So let's just take a few moments and let's just see how this goes. Let's close our eyes. And if you're driving, please don't close your eyes, keep your eyes open. But you've been in this outwardly focused moment with me here, right? You've been concentrating, thinking, learning, using your brain. Well, using your mind, you're always using your brain, even when you're sleeping. But I want you to start to notice if you intuitively want to take any movement. What does your body need in this moment? And you're just going to start to notice your breath. Notice your body. You're going to start to more consciously connect in with your breath. So taking nice fluid inhales. And on your exhale breath, opening up your mouth, maybe making a sigh sound and just letting that air out. Doing the same thing again, taking a nice deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. One more nice deep breath, just like that. And exhale, let it go. And I'll invite you to just start to take a nice balanced breath where the inhales and the exhales seem to meet each other and match each other in length. Letting one inhale roll into the exhale, and letting that exhale roll into the inhale. You might even put a hand over your heart. And I'm going to invite you into your own imagination to begin to picture a time or a place where you feel comfortable and relaxed and at ease. Bringing in all of your senses. Imagining what it looks like there, what it feels like. What do you smell in the air? Just allowing yourself to be enveloped by this scene that you're in. And as you're ready, I'll invite you to set an intention in your heart space perhaps one of those questions that you've had on your mind or on your heart. With this feeling of relaxation that you have from the scene that you're in, I'll invite you to plant that question into your heart space with a sense of levity as you ask the question. Just imagine the question kind of dissolving into the scene, keeping your focus and your attention wide and open. Noticing what you notice in this moment. Any feelings, sensations, words. And when you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and toes, opening up your eyes, come back to center. So notice how, and you can comment in the comment box. I'm curious to hear from you how it felt to go into that state of relaxation for yourself. What did you notice shifted? And if you noticed something sort of drop in or an idea drop in, let us know. Did you glean some wisdom from that just by taking a few moments to relax and widen and open your focus from anything narrow to more openness? When we think about ways to start to invoke these states for ourselves, we can come into a place of deep breathing. I saw somebody commented in the chat box that they do EFT and that helps them a lot. I know a lot of people talk about EFT and the power of EFT. We can use breath work. We can use EFT in the moment. We can go into nature. Nature is one of our greatest teachers. So going into nature and allowing yourself to be and just be and see and notice what's around you and what you feel and you experience can put us into more of an internal and connected state. Personally, I love this little dog down here. A pet is great, but also shaking. I find that if stress starts to build in my body and I allow myself to physically take a few moments and a few minutes to just physically shake and let the energy out and maybe even bring sound to the movement or sound to the shaking, I can release a lot of energy there. And that tends to bring me back into a state of homeostasis, as well as journaling, mind dumping, getting out whatever is on my mind. So we'll go next to, as you, this is another thing I want to say is that as you embark on your own journey of healing, your connection to your own intuition can grow a whole heck of a lot stronger. Why is this? Because we can find ourselves moving out of living in a more constant stress state, and we can find ourselves more connected to the present moment. Let's say, for example, the last 3 jobs that you've had, you have gotten fired from, and you've had bosses that it was just really difficult for you to work at. As you start to heal what's coming up there, like maybe there's abandonment stuff for you, or maybe there's, and you keep saying, why do I keep picking the same thing over and over again, right? Unconsciously picking it. As you start to actually heal for yourself and go, what's going on beneath the hood here? I'm going to lift up the hood and see what's underneath this. You might find that your intuition goes, hey, like, you don't want to go in that direction again. Like that's the same direction that you were going in before, you know, with the same type of boss. You don't want that anymore. Like you know that you maybe deserve better, or that you can do better for yourself, or whatever it may be. So as we heal and we go in and we do this work for ourselves, we can find ourselves moving into more present moment living, being more connected to our intuition, hearing what our higher self has to say. And again, as Karen always says, we all have all of the chart. We all have all of the clairs, every single one of them. Some of them are just a bit more natural for us than other ones are. Some we may relate to more than others. Most people, when they start my classes, they go, I don't think I'm very clairvoyant. And then by the end of class, they're like, I'm seeing images now. So we can literally flex our intuition muscle. We can strengthen any of these intuitive guidance that comes through any of the clairs for us. So let's talk for a moment about the gates of the spleen. Let me just time check. Okay, so let's talk about the spleen, the splenic gates. So first off, we have the gate 48 over here, and this is a very clairvoyant channel, or clairvoyant gate rather, and this is all about wisdom, the wisdom to explore the depth of knowledge, to develop mastery. If you don't have the 48 and you're like, but I think I'm clairvoyant, don't worry. We all have all of the clairs. This is just where you might see some of your own experiences reflected in the chart. The 57 is very claircognizant and clairaudient. So this is all about knowing the right time to act. You know something, you don't know how you know it, you just know it. So the 57, very claircognizant or clairaudient. The 44 is clairolfactant. So those of you with powerful noses who have a very deep connection to smell, you are you may find that clairolfactance is a strong intuitive sense for you. The 50 is clairsentient. This is the gate of nurturing. So it feels, it has these experiences where it feels and it senses maybe what somebody else is feeling, what's going on with somebody. It gets feelings through its body. I always think about the 50 as like the mama bear gate, the gate of the mama bear, right? That mom just has a feeling something's going on. She can feel it in her body, can feel and sense when something is off. 32, again, clairvoyant, the gate of endurance, being able to bring a vision into reality. The 28, we're going to look at that clairaudience as well as claircognizance. So there's a clear knowingness here with the 28. And the 18 has a sense of clairsentience connected with it, a clear feeling. This is the gate of realignment. You get a clear feeling and a clear sense of what needs to be realigned, what is off with the 18. Okay, so the gates of the head center, so whether it's defined or not, but the 64, 61, and 63 are considered clairvoyant gates. When we look at the knowingness circuitry, so whether you have the entire line colored in or you just have half, right? You just have a hanging gate. There's clairaudience and claircognizance that is connected here with the knowingness circuit. So you can take a moment to jot any of these down if you would like. These move through the center line of the chart. So 61 straight down. It's the second one in from the right or the left. And then we have over here the 1222. It's the interior one. And then the second one as we reach the bottom of the chart, and then the interior one. The 5734, this channel is incredibly clairaudient. It is the channel of hearing. Okay. 5734. 13, 15, and 19, especially the 19 is extremely sensitive. So these are more clairsentient or clairempathic. Openness, we're going to go through openness in the chart. So when we look at the open G, as well as the open emotional solar plexus, these are very clairsentient energies or clairempathetic energies where you can feel, you maybe get feelings and sensations in your body, or you can really easily pick up on other people's feelings and emotions. Especially as we look at the open G center, a lot of the times people with the open G can kind of get a pulse on how people feel about themselves, their own sense of self-worth and lovability. All right, anybody who has the open head in Ajna, this can be a place of mind reading, if you will. When we look at the open head in Ajna, a lot of people who have this defined are transmitting inspiration out into the world, or transmitting thoughts out into the world. I had an experience this week. I'm visiting my mom for our birthdays, and my mom has the head center, or the Ajna defined rather. And we were walking down the beach, and I thought to she said to me, "What do you want for dinner?" And I, for some reason out of nowhere, said, "I think I'd like crab cakes." I don't eat crab cakes. I don't think I've ever bought myself a crab cake. She says, "Oh my gosh, I was just thinking I want crab cakes." And we have this all the time. The other morning I walked outside and I was thinking, I thought to myself, I need to order dresses for something that I have coming up. And I walked outside and she says, "I was just thinking about that." And I'm like, "Of course you were." So we're constantly sharing thoughts. So when you have this open head and open ajna, you can often read other people's minds because they're transmitting energy out into the world around them. This nice open spleen. I have the wide open spleen as well. So for anybody out there who has the wide open spleen, I see you and I hear you. This can often be very medically intuitive when we look at the wide open spleen center. So you might be able to kind of sense and understand people's sense of well-being as well inside of their bodies. I find with this, it's very easy to also pick up on and absorb what other people's fears are, because when we look at the spleen the opposite side of our intuition are the fears that come with the splenic gates. So I find for myself, it's very easy to pick up on people's fears as well as their sense of well-being in the world. Just take a few moments, and I'd love to have you reflect and look at your chart. What experiences have you had with intuition? And ask yourself, how has it been coming through for me? What are things that you kind of naturally do? Do you and your best friend have this thing where you just always know when the other one's going to call? Do you always see numbers on the TV? The TV, it always says 111 or 222 or whatever it may be. Do you get chill bumps? How do you receive intuition? How do things come through for you? And for anybody out there who works with people as a practitioner, maybe you're a human design reader, maybe you are I don't know, maybe a therapist or somebody in the healing arts community, or maybe you're just, maybe you're a secretary, not just a secretary, but like maybe you're not in a helping field per se, where you're directly working with somebody in that capacity, like one-on-one working on the deeper stuff, but maybe you're a secretary. Maybe you are a janitor, like maybe you're a lawyer, whatever, who works on things that you're not directly working maybe with one-on-one with a client, whatever it may be. How do you know things, right? How does intuition come through for you? When you are working in whatever field you're in, we can use intuition on our side to support us and to help us when we're working with people, to get out of that mental body, to get out of the logical mind. Those are really important. The logical mind is very important, and it helps us very much in this society that we live in. And we can start to also use intuition to support us in receiving messages that go beyond logic. So start to ask yourself as well, jot down a couple of ways, is how can I start getting myself into a relaxed state more and more every day? Are there things that I want to start working on for myself so I can start to clear perhaps doubt around starting a business, getting a promotion at work, reintegrating back with your family, whatever it may be? Are there things that I can work on so that I can live a bit more in that state of presence, of pure presence in my day-to-day life? And also, how can I maybe put Instagram down or Facebook down, or the things that distract me, and create more moments for receiving in my day-to-day life, for asking questions consciously, and for listening and allowing myself to listen. Your intuition is always going to bring loving guidance. That's the last thing I want to end with here. Your intuition is always going to bring loving guidance to you. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of tough love, right? If we're not listening and we're not listening and we're not listening and we're not listening, but it is always here to bring us loving guidance. So the invitation is to also remember that when we're listening, if you're hearing something that seems really harsh, it may be the mind, right? If it's like, you're no good at that, you shouldn't do that. That can be the conditioning of the mind versus that relaxed, receptive, and open state when we're allowing ourselves to really hear something from a place of love, right? It might be honest, but it's always from a place of love. All right, so ways to learn more about intuition if you're interested in working together. What I would say is, number one, head over to jessbubbico.com. Take the intuition quiz, JESS Bubbico, BUBBICO.com. Take the intuition quiz, see what your primary clair is. You can book a session with me. I offer one-on-one human design readings as well as intuitive readings. And when I do intuitive human design readings, I actually start out with bringing through intuitive messages, whatever may want to come through, as well as we can go through intuitive markers in your chart and understanding how intuition comes through for you. Finally, I have upcoming intuitive development groups that are beginning the week of April 5th. These are application-based groups for those of you who are either working with clients currently or you want to do this kind of work with your clients. I will be weaving human design throughout and understanding what your unique gifts are and how you are designed to bring your gifts into the world. It's not just necessarily like learning how to do intuitive readings. It's how do I start to develop connection with my intuition, start to bring intuitive messages through for myself and others, and what are my specific gifts? How am I meant to express my gifts out into the world? So, it might be that you're somebody who's a manifestor. You're here to initiate people, or, you might find that you're a reflector and you're really wanting to be able to support people in a way to help them to see the truth of who they are and your different gifts in the chart and things of that nature. So this is about developing a deep, strong connection with your intuition and how your intuition comes through for you, being able to support others with it, and also really stepping into your gifts and how you share them with the world. So that's what I have got for you today, folks. Are there any questions, Cindy?
There were a couple questions that came through.
Okay.
And on Facebook, Margaret said, I have inner vision, but it manifests in more as a knowing by sort of seeing the situation with the outcome and obstacles combined with feeling. I'd like to train this, but where or by whom and what? Is a healer the place or a medium?
Come check out my group. That's what I would say, because we're going to go over all of that. If you're interested in the intuitive development groups that I have coming up, we're going to literally dive into exactly this. It's not like this is how Jess Bubbico does it and you learn it in this way. We're going to like look at your gifts and how things come through for you. They're small groups. So everybody gets nice individualized attention within the group too. And you get to see how other people are opening up to how things come through for them, as well as, that will help you to solidify how things come through for yourself too.
And then Gwen asked or wondered, I've heard the open spleen can be a sign of psychic abilities. I wonder if that's true. You had said the open spleen, medical intuitive, but can it be?
Yeah, the thing that I have experienced with my own open spleen is that a lot of the times whoever I'm with, messages will start to come through very similarly to how they receive intuition. But yes, there's definitely psychic abilities that connect with the spleen as well, I would say.
Someone said the web link says site under construction, but
go to www.jessbubbico.com. Make sure you put the W's in there.
I will post that. And then I think that's it for the questions. Lots of comments. I mean, there were people, every time you asked for comments, they were commenting on the way they were getting, like Sean said, resetting my vagus nerve through controlled breathing has been really helpful.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting talk.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Cindy.
So in your group, when they work on it, Gwen was also she was the one that said about the open spleen. She's working on developing, but I'm heavily conditioned. Do you find, is that something that in your groups you help people overcome their conditioning, that listen to that, or I say it out loud, I'm crazy?
Yeah, I know. We'll work through conditioning. I mean, it's one of those things too that I find with the groups where it's like, if you start to do, like, you just can't deny it. There's certain things that come up where you're like, I don't know how I knew that. That's crazy, or whatever the thing is. It's like you will start to naturally also decondition yourself from it too. It's just a part of when we start to also shift. I know Karen just had her, I think it's a class or something that she just ran on raising your vibration. Like, you start to sort of lift out of that frequency of fear and conditioning as well with the type of work that we're doing and the different meditations and things like that. And you start to shift into, yes. So the answer to that is yes. Yes, you will.
And yes, I said, yes, need to add the www. And
yes.
And you get to the website. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions right now, just lovely comments.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time today. I really loved being with you. Cindy, thank you so much for co-hosting here, and I hope everybody has a fabulous Friday.